Okay. Kelsey and Erica and whoever else is watching this video, I've been having technical difficulties this morning, so hopefully this is recording. But we just went through number 6, list all the possible rational zeros. You do the P over Q method. P is negative 20, Q is 1, and then divide them out. So factors of 20, 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, and 20. Each one of those, if I divide by 1, just gives you the same numbers again. So these are all the possible zeros. We said if we wanted to find which ones actually work, we would plug each one of those numbers in, and it would have to be 0. But I just want the possible ones that work. So those, how many numbers are there that are possible?
Well, 6.
Technically 12, because of the plus and minus, right? It's 1 and negative 1, 2 and negative 2, 4 and negative 4. That's 12 numbers.
Oh.
Right?
Hey,
okay?
You got a blooper.
I got a blooper. Okay. All right. What else?
So, wait. So it's just those?
It's just those. I just want the possible ones. Okay?
The one on top? Not the...
Well, okay, so technically, like, the number that's on bottom is 1, right? So it would be 1 divided by 1, which is just 1. 2 divided by 1, which is just 2. 4 divided by 1, which is just 4. 5 divided by 1, 10 divided by 1, 20 divided by 1. Does that make sense?
So
But anything divided by 1 just stays itself, so it's just basically this top list right there.
The possible ones. It's not the
Does that make sense, Indy?
If it was a different number on the bottom,
yes,
it would make it different?
Then you would have to do all of that.
Okay.
Yep. Then you would have to write each one of them out.
Can we do 5?
Okay. 5, find all zeros of the polynomial. That's a quadratic.
Wait, we didn't have to finish it.
No, you just list all the possible ones.
So that's all we have
That's
to
it. Just list all the possible ones. Number 5, how do you find I'm not going to do this one for you. You can do it, but let me get you started. Find all zeros of that polynomial. How do you do that? It's a quadratic, right? You could do the quadratic formula, or I'm pretty sure you could do the complex trinomial method to factor in. Okay, you could have done that as well. But anytime you have a quadratic, if you don't know what to do, last resort, use the quadratic formula and you'll get the right answer. Make sense? Okay, I'm not going to go through that one. Okay? Yes, negative b plus minus that thing. Okay? All right. Number 7. You want to go through number 7? Sure. A. This is my function that I'm looking at here, and I'm answering questions according to that. The function, true or false? The function has 3 zeros that are between negative 2 and 3.
Yes.
Negative 2 is here. 3 is here. Does he cross 3 places in between those? True.
Can I just go check that?
Sure.
Whenever.
Sure. B. F of x could possibly be a 5th degree polynomial. Why not?
Because there's not enough humps.
Technically the other humps could be imaginary.
No.
But the thing that I would look at is he going opposite directions?
Yeah.
X to the 5th power has to go opposite directions. Yeah, I would say true. That one's kind of a tricky one, because usually that would just be an x to the 3rd power, but he could technically be x to the 5th. C, f of x has a negative leading coefficient. What does that mean? Like it's negative x to the 5th power versus a positive x to the 5th power. Which one is this one?
It's going this way, so no.
It's going like uphill from left to right, technically. Okay, so is it positive or negative? Positive, so true or false?
False.
False. It doesn't have negative. Okay? All right, now then we get into some weird, ugly business. F of 2. Let's just dissect this thing. What does f of 2 mean? Go to 2 on the x. Okay, 2 on the x-axis is right here. Where is he touching? About at negative 1, right? You see that? On the graph, 2, this is the point 2 comma negative 1 right there. So f of 2 is negative 1. I'm going to cross him out and I'm going to put negative 1 minus. What's f of negative 1? F of negative 1, let's say 1.5. Minus 1.5. Less than 3. Is that stuff less than 3? If I do negative 1 minus 1.5, it's like negative 2.5. Is that less than 3?
Yes.
Yeah, true.
Why did we write it that way?
Why did we what?
Write it that way.
What do you mean, why did we write it that way?
Negative 1 minus 1.5.
Because when we're evaluating, so the first part says f of 2. F of 2 is negative 1. So we just evaluate each piece. Minus f of 1 is 1.5. Does that make sense?
Oh.
Because f of 2, it's the coordinate point 2, negative 1. It's the coordinate point negative 1, comma 1.5. That's this guy. Negative 1 is at 1.5. So what f of 2 is saying is what is the y coordinate if the x coordinate is 2. This guy is saying what is the y coordinate if the x coordinate is negative 1. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So negative 1 minus 1.5, negative 2.5 is less than 3, true. Okay? Last one says f of x is positive for all values in the interval from negative 1 to 0. Okay, negative 1 to 0 is this chunk right here. Okay?
Yes.
What does positive versus negative mean?
The line.
Like, is he above the x-axis or is he below the x-axis? In that chunk is everything above the x-axis. Yes, he is positive right here. All of those values are positive numbers, positive y coordinates. So true. Okay? All of these are just having you dissect the graph and look at pieces of the graph. Yeah? Okay? Moving on. Number 8. Do you know how to do number 8?
Kind of.
Kind of? Can you do it by yourself if I get you a start? Okay?
I already started.
Use a quartic regression. Okay?
I just didn't know how to do B.
You're going to need your graphing calculator. Quartic regression. Okay? What is quartic? What degree is quartic? X to the 4th power, right? So your equation is going to be x to the 4th power, blah, blah, blah. They're asking for the equation here. Okay? It's going to be something x to the 4th power, blah, 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 all the way through. Okay? X equals 0 corresponds to 1990. Okay? So, I'm going to say x equals 0 corresponds to 1990. What would 1998 be? Your 8. So, in your x's, you're going to put 8. What would 2000 be? 10, 12, 14, 16, and those guys, 2008 would be 18. This guy is 20, 22, 24. Okay, so in your calculator, how do you get to plug these in? Where do you go? Hit the stat button, and you go stat edit, and you insert those guys in there. I don't think I'm going to be able to do this up here on the board because I have them on and then I'm recording and I don't think it's going to work. So go stat edit. Your X list is going to be all of these. These are your X's. These are going to be your Y's. Okay? No. That's a good question. Did you guys hear what he just said? Do you have to plug in 0? No, 0 is not an actual point on my list. 0 just tells me what I call my x's. Does that make sense? You do not put 0 in your list because that's not an actual point, right?
Did you ever get any daddies?
Yes, I did.
I'm thinking about like the fox too.
Okay, so plug those values in and see what equation you get. Okay, make sure that if you end up getting a, okay, make sure that you look at your values, and if you end up getting like times 10 to the negative whatever power, you make sure you move those decimals over. You know what I'm talking about? Okay, so go ahead and do that. Part B, according to this model, what will the cost of a public education be in 2007? And in 2015, I'll just get you a start on these guys. What X are you going to use for 2007? I don't think so.
What?
Oh my god, I'm an idiot.
1990 is your 0. 2006 is 16, 2008 is 18, so 2007 is going to be 17. So all you're doing is after you find your equation up here, you're going to plug in 17, and that's going to give you your answer. Now, Your number should be somewhere between 74,000 and 83,000. Does that make sense? Because that's where 17 lives in between. Okay? 2015, where do you plug it in? For 2015, you're going to plug in 25. So same thing, but plug in 25. You guys need time to do that.
Yes.
Okay, go for it.
I have a question. So after plugging all
So we plugged the.
what do I do to find the
So find your equation first, India.
I got all that.
Okay? Then you're just going to plug 17 in for x. So you go back to your main screen and plug 17 in for the x's here. 17, you're going to plug 17, whatever, x cubed, 17 squared, 17, whatever. All these numbers go in there as well. Does that make sense? You're just plugging 17 into the equation that you get. And then you're doing the
Does it
same thing where you're
matter
plugging into it.
what? Does it matter what? Like. Oh shoot. Never mind.
Okay. What do you got, Nadi?
after plugging
Yeah. Yes, Caleb. Thanks, MJ. No problem.
What did everyone get?
We're still trying to slow. It's okay. So we need to fix
Zero, 3, 6. Yes. Okay. I'll give you a little hint on your equation. If you did not get, for your x to the fourth power, if you did not get 0.03, what is it? 0.036. Oh, 0.036. If you did not get 0.036 as your first number, you didn't do something right. 0.036 x to the fourth power should be your first term. If it's not, you did something wrong. If it's not, you did something wrong.
I got 7.
Andy, does that mean your brother's quarantine?
Stop eating food. This is commentary. Why is it? I think it's true. This is comment.
Yes, ma'am.
Commentary.
What's up?
I got 7.6845 for my first number.
Go back to your
And then-
stat edit, because Ellie just did the same thing. Go back to your stat edit and make sure that you typed these guys in correct.
Because when I put it all together, I got between the two like costs. I got a number that's between them.
What was your first term? Your first x to the fourth power?
7.6845.
Oh boy. Go back to your stat edit and see if these numbers are right.
Okay.
Uh-oh. But you fixed it. Okay.
If I messed up, what do I change? Or how do I change it? Just delete it?
What do you mean? Just retype the part that you messed up on. So go back through on your X's and make sure that they're 8,
Okay.
10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, and then check these numbers over real good. Like Ellie had a couple of them that were mixed around. Like she had switched like a 6 and a 9 around, or a 4 and a 6 around. And
Okay.
it gave her a different answer. So check those guys to make sure that you type those in right. Okay? Even if you just mess up one, it will mess up your whole equation.
Okay. And then after I do that, what do I do?
After you do that, rewrite your equation here, and then you may end up having to,
What I mean, how do I get to the equation again?
go to stat. So after you go stat edit and you put your numbers in your list, you go to stat calc.
Okay.
Stat calc, and then you go down to quartic regression. Okay?
Okay.
I think somebody else logged on here. Did somebody else? Nope, it's just India and Lily. Okay.
When you write your equation, you write E as like the last number, like the number. Is it E or is it R?
It's E. R is how accurate it is.
Yes, R is how accurate it is. So yes, you will have an E, and that will be just your last number. Yes. Good question. Was that your question?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, are we doing all right? When you plugged it in? That sounds good. Mm-hmm. Because, so 2007 should be somewhere in between that number, not there. Yep, 78,000. That sounds good. Mm-hmm. Yep, you're probably right. Okay?
And then to find the thingies for 2007 you plug like 17 and 25 in the equation.
Yes. Yep. So it takes a little bit of time to plug in, but once you plug the 17 in, you should just be able to go back into your equation and then type the 25 in. Yep, and it's fine. Yep. So that makes it kind of nice. Okay? Are you guys ready to move on yet?
No, one more.
The I's go by pretty fast in the bottom of the list.
Is this how big the test is going to be?
Yes. About-ish. I think there's like 15 questions in the test, maybe.
Well, there's 18 on here.
There's 18 on here. Maybe there's 20 on the test. I don't know for sure. Really? Yeah. It wasn't a long test. No.
788.11. I got 78890. I got 78886.
I know, I hate that, she's so right.
They got 78890. You got 78895. But it's because you probably put like 3 decimals on, and they put 2 or 4 decimals on, whatever. That's pretty close.
As long as it's 7, 8 something, it's fine.
Yep. Yeah. So 17. Here's another one to you that you can check. 78,895 or something close to it is what 17 should be when you plug it in. Okay. That's what MJ got. Some of the other girls got 78890. That's pretty close.
That's what I got.
78888.118.
Okay. Sure. That sounds good. Those are pretty close. It's just because you rounded to a different decimal place.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Is 1, 2, 5,
Would there be
3.
What?
7, 8?
78895 or something close to it.
Okay.
Because it depends on like up here, like if you rounded, like some people could have rounded that to 0.04 instead of 0.036. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's just going to be the deciding factor. Okay. All right. You ready to move on?
Yeah.
Number 9. I want to make sure we have time to get through everything. Number 9. Determine the domain and the x-intercepts. Domain over here. X-intercepts over here. Okay. 2 things that mess up domain. A negative inside of a square root and dividing by 0. Which one do we have to worry about?
Divided by 0.
Dividing by 0. Okay, so I don't want this bottom to be 0. So how can I figure out what x can't be? 3x minus 9 can't be 0. And then solve. Right? Some of you guys can figure that out in your head maybe what that should be, right? But if you don't want to have to work it out in your head, just do 3x minus 9 can't be 0. Add the 9. 3x can't be 9, so that means x can't be what? X can't be 3, divide by 3. X can't be 3, and there he is. Okay? So I can plug in anything I want to in for x, just not 3, right? Okay? How do you find x-intercepts?
That's the only thing.
You plug 0 in for y. So 0 equals
Don't even write the bottom.
4x
half,
plus
it's
10
pointless.
over, and
Don't
Caleb's
write the
yelling
bottom
at me.
half.
He
You're
says don't write the bottom. Why not?
Because it's pointless.
When you multiply him to the other side, we wrote this on your note card, right? When you multiply him to the other side, he basically goes away. So 4x plus 10 equals 0. Okay, subtract the 10. Can you guys do this in your head? Negative 10 equals 4x. Divide by 4. X is negative 10 over 4, or we divide by 2. Negative 5 over 2. If you want to write it as a decimal, it's negative 2.5. I don't care how you write it. But there he is. That's where he's going to cross the x-axis.
Wait,
Scooch back over. Okay?
You can just put 2.5.
That's negative 2. And just make sure it's negative.
Push
Yeah.
it text tonight, because every night I'm like, oh.
Okay?
I can do this tonight.
Moving on. Number 10.
I can bring it like tomorrow.
Two things that we're finding. What are they on number 10?
I have a
Vertical asymptotes and holes. How do you find them? Look at your note card. If you can't remember. How do you find the vertical asymptotes and the holes? Set the denominator equal to 0. X squared minus 1 equals 0. Okay. What can you do with x squared minus 1?
Difference of squares.
It's a difference of squares. The square root of x squared is x. The square root of 1 is 1. X minus 1, x plus 1. Okay? So, x minus 1, x plus 1. If I set x minus 1 equal to 0, x is equal to 1. If I set x plus 1 equal to 0, x is negative 1. X equals negative 1. Those are my two. Okay? Now, so this guy became this one. This guy became this one. Right? That's what those are. Okay. Which one is a hole and which one is a va?
The hole is the top one. The bottom one is the normal one.
So this guy broke down into x plus 1, x minus 1. Right? Which one cancels with the top?
Plus.
X plus 1. So that means x equals negative 1 is a hole. Holes cancel out. Right? X equals positive 1 is a va. Does that make sense? Okay? The confusing part, MJ's looking at that like, what are you talking about? The confusing part is, it's plus 1 in the factor, but after you set it equal to 0, it's actually minus 1. Does that make sense? Okay? So, x plus 1 canceled out, so that means x equals negative 1 as a whole. Right? X minus 1 is what's left over, that means he's a va at 1. Right? Those are the two pieces. Whole at negative 1, va at 1. Okay? Next. Okay, you got your haws ready to go? What do you look for on a haw?
The exponents.
Yep, n and m. So what's n? Oh, this one's a weird one. What's n up there?
0.
0. This is like x to the 0 power. So n is 0. What's m?
1.
1. It's to the first power. Okay? N is 0, m is 1. So y equals 0 is the haw. I have a horizontal asymptote at y equals 0. Okay, good?
Yep.
All right? Now we get to the i's, and these go really fast, I think. Yes, they do. Number 12. Okay. My algebra kids. This is my what algebra 2 kids get stuck on. They see number 12, and they FOIL it. And they see number 13, and they also FOIL it. What's the difference between the two? This one says add. I'm just combining like terms there, right? That's the only thing that I'm doing. Adding, combining like terms. Okay? So, what do you combine?
8 and 6.
8 and 6 makes 14. Combine negative I and positive 9i. Plus 8i. Is that it?
Yes.
That's it. Okay? Now you FOIL, number 13. Okay, 10 and 2? is 20. 10 and negative 3i
minus 30i.
minus 30i. Negative 8i and 2. Next 16i. What's negative 8i times negative 3i? Negative 3i.
You almost
Positive
said that.
24i squared. Yeah. Okay, now we're going to simplify and put stuff together. The first thing I would fix is the what? Is the I squared is negative 1, so that becomes negative 24, right? 24 times negative 1 is negative 24. He's done. Okay, now we combine stuff. What can we combine?
Negative 30i.
20 and negative 24 becomes negative 4, okay? Negative 30i and negative 16i, negative 46i. Is that it? Done. Boom. We win. Okay.
Wait, what? Where did the minus come? Oh, never mind then.
Yep. Okay. Moving on. I should give you a chance to do what?
You're by myself.
Oh.
We don't have
14?
time. Yeah. Go.
14, you want a chance to do it by yourself?
No, I don't remember how to do this.
How do you do I to the 51st power? Do you remember?
I
What's the
squared.
only thing I know?
I squared.
I know I squared. I know I squared.
Okay, no.
Does 2 go into 51?
No.
No, but it can get me close by taking it times 25, right? 2 times 25 is 50, but I want 51.
Plus.
So times I to the first power. Because this combined right here will give me 51 of them, right? Okay? So I squared to the 25th, that's 50. And then another I to the first power gives me 51. Does that make sense? You every single one of these you write like this. Okay? Now hold on. What is I squared equivalent to? Negative 1. If you take negative 1 times itself 25 times, it gives you a negative 1. Times I to the first power. Negative 1 times I to the first power is negative 1i or just negative I. Does that make sense? Okay? If it is an odd number up here, it will end up with an I down here. If it's an even number, it's just going to either be positive 1 or negative 1. Does that make sense? Because there's not going to be an I hanging off the end. Right? Say that again. Okay? 51 was an odd number, right? And when it's an odd number, we have to hang that I off to the side. But if it's an even number, we only have this part of it. We will only end up with 1 or negative 1. So if it was like 50 or 52 or 54, we won't have to hang that I off to the side. So it'll just be positive 1 or negative 1, right? But if it's an odd number, you'll end up with I in the answer. Does that make sense? Okay? So there you go. You have 50-50 shot. If it's an even number, 1 or negative 1. If it's an odd number, I or negative I.
Keep going.
Okay? Moving on. Rationalize. What do I have? Oh, this is an I, by the way. That's a typo. Did you guys see that? 2 minus I, that's a typo. I'm sorry.
Oh.
What do I have a problem with?
Eyes on the bottom.
I's on the bottom. How do I get rid of the I's on the bottom?
You put plus
3 plus 4i and 3 plus 4i. That's the conjugate of him, right? Okay? Now, how can I get away with taking him times 3 plus 4i? Isn't that illegal?
No, because there's an I on bottom.
If I do it to the top and the bottom, 3 plus 4i over 3 plus 4i reduces to 1. So I'm taking this whole thing times 1, which is not changing its value, because when you take anything times 1, it stays the same. I'm not changing its value, I'm changing what it looks like, right? You have to take it times both the top and the bottom by the same thing. Okay, now how do I do this? Start on the bottom, okay?
Cancel. The bottom cancels.
The bottom doesn't cancel. Not everything. FOIL. Okay, we FOIL the bottom. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4i plus 12i. Negative 4i times 3 is negative 12i. And then negative 4i times positive 4i is negative 16i squared. Okay, good?
Yeah.
All right. I squared is negative 1, so that changes this to positive 16. Okay? What else do we know about the bottom? 12i and negative 12i. That will always happen. If it doesn't happen, then you did it wrong, because you're going to end up with I in the bottom, and that's what we're trying to avoid, right? 9 plus 16 gives me 25 in the bottom, and then we're done. Okay? Now, the top we have to also FOIL. 2 minus I, 3 plus 4i. Okay, so 2 times 3 is 6. Then what? plus 8i minus 3i minus 4i squared. Okay? The I squared becomes a negative 1, so that changes to plus 4. And let's simplify the top. 10, and then what? Plus 5i. Now, wait a second. I thought the i's were supposed to cancel.
Not on the top.
Not on the top. Well, we can have i's on the top, right? Now, the only other thing that you can do to this is all three of those numbers are divisible by 5. So, 2, 1, 5. So, 2 plus I over 5. There you go. Okay, but they have to reduce all three places in order to reduce, yeah? Okay? What time do we get out of here? 26? Oh, we got lots of time. Perfect. Woo! Okay, moving on. Simplify. All right, let's simplify him. Let's start with the stuff that's in parentheses. 6, I can't simplify him, plus, what's the square root of negative 9 look like? Is 3i. The square root of 9 is 3, and the square root of a negative becomes an I. There he is, right there. Okay? All right, I can leave him in parentheses, or really we can just take him out of parentheses, right? Can we just drop the parentheses? Minus 2i, there's nothing I can do there. Plus 10, minus, what's the square root of 16?
4i.
Is it I?
Minus 4.
There's no negative inside, right? So it's just minus 4. Is it plus and minus 4? Why not? We didn't put the square root in there. It was already there. Okay, now we just combine like how many pieces are there now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, let's put the non-i's together first. 6 plus 10 minus 4.
12.
12. 12? Okay. 3i minus 2i.
1.
Plus I. Done. Boom. We win. We win. Solve the equation. Blah, blah, blah. And express the solution in a plus bi form. So, we know that we're going to end up with an I in this problem, right? Okay. 17. What kind of equation is this? What is that thing?
Let's just make it so we can put 0.
It's a complex trinomial, but it's a quadratic, right? Okay, we know we're going to end up with i's in the answer, right? Is he ready to go? No. What do we need to do? Move the 3x over, okay? So, what does it look like when we move it over? 5x squared. What? Minus 3x plus 2 equals 0, okay? Now what do?
Quadratic form.
He is a complex trinomial, but I don't think, like if you take 5 times 2, that's 10. What can you multiply to get 10, but when you add them, give you negative 3? And you can say 5 and 2, but to make positive 10, it either has to be a positive 5 and a positive 2, or a negative 5 and a negative 2. Can I make negative 3? No, it's either going to be a positive 7 or a negative 7. Do you see that? So if this fails, so what do I do now? Quadratic. Okay? Quadratic formula. So, negative b is negative 3, right? Which is really plus 3, if you want to write it like that. Plus minus square root. What will b squared be? 9 minus 4 times a times c. 2. All over 2a. 2 times 5. Okay, and then let's simplify. 3 is just chilling. Plus minus. Okay. 9 minus 4 times 5 times 2. What do you do next? 4 times 5 is 20 times 2 is negative 40. And you said 9 minus 40 is negative 31. All over 10. Will 31 break down? No, but we are going to write it as 3 plus minus the square root of 31. And we're going to bring the I out all over 10. Can they reduce? No, that's it. I know. Last one. Number 18. List the zeros of this function. What do we do to do that? Do we multiply all those guys together?
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Don't multiply them all together. That'd be a really bad headache that you need to avoid. X equals 4. Okay? X equals 2. X equals negative 7. And they want the multiplicity of each. What does multiplicity mean?
Like, if there's multiple numbers.
How many times it shows up as an answer? What's the multiplicity of 4?
3.
How many times it shows up as an answer? It shows up 3 times. Because really, that means x minus 4 times x minus 4 times x minus 4. That's what 3 means, right? So 4 is showing up as an answer 3 times. How many times is 2 showing up as an answer? 1. How many times is 7 showing up as an answer? Or negative 7? 2. Now, what degree would this polynomial be if I multiply them all together?
5.
6.
No, 6.
Right? 3, 1, and 2, that gives me 6 if I multiply all of them together, right? There's 6 pieces. What's the 5 doing in the front?
It's just making it moving it up.
Nothing. It's just making it move, like, yeah, it's just making it moved up, or really it's actually stretching it out, which is kind of making it taller. But anyway. Okay, how's that? Good? Okay?
Wait, we did. We got
Because
6.
3 plus 1 plus 2. The multiplicities all together should add up to be 6, right? Okay.
Oh, so it doesn't matter about.
That 5 doesn't matter. Okay?
Okay.
Number 2, use long division. Okay, I'll go through it real fast because we're going to get out in like 2 seconds. So, when you're dividing, the thing that you need to make sure of is make sure you put the zeros in there. So, x to the 4th plus 3x cubed plus 0x squared plus 0x plus 1. And you're dividing by x squared plus 0x plus 1. That's the problem.
Yeah, because I don't use these outside.
Okay?
parentheses, so what I do is-
Good? You want me to keep going?
Yeah, I just want to do the x to the 4th.
Okay? So, what do you take times x squared to get x to the 4th? X squared. X squared. Multiply it back through. X squared times x squared is x to the 4th. X squared times 0x is plus 0x to the 3rd. Okay? X squared times 1 is plus x squared. Then we flip it all. Minus, minus, minus. Okay, so what do you have left over? 3. X
Is it negative?
to the 3rd. No, it's 3 minus 0, so it's just 3. 3x to the 3rd, and then what? You have 0x squared minus x squared. So 0 minus 1.
Oh, so it's x squared.
So minus 1x squared. And then drop your 0x down.
Can I take my stuff and like go to the bathroom so I'm not late for next
Sure, that's fine. Okay, and then you keep going. Okay? Okay, are you good?
Only x goes into.
Yes. Oh, 3x. 3x?
No, but.
What do you take times x squared to get 3x cubed? Plus 3x? Right?
Oh, 3. I was thinking.
3x.
X squared for a second. I mean, x to the 4th. It was like.
Okay, then you multiply it back through. 3x times x squared is 3x cubed plus 0x squared plus 3x. That's what you should have. Okay, are you doing okay? You want me to keep going?
Wait.
All right, I'm going to stop the video.